Yeah, fantastic. Hi. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is prepared with a glass of wine and hopefully a glass of Riesling. Yeah, wonderful to see you here. And yeah, yeah, I have the right idea, Juliet. Yeah, right. And yeah, it's very hot here, very hot. So it was 36, 37 degrees. So a lot higher in the vineyards today. And as you see in the back, it's getting a bit gray. And as yesterday, we are expecting maybe a second thunderstorm. We can still use water, but it's definitely yeah. But we are also not in water stress, so it is not as dry as we had it in 18 and 19. So vineyards are looking well. But yeah, again, a very nice summer, definitely. So yeah, cheers, everybody. Mm. Actually, I have a Kai 2014, which is showing perfect now and has only 9.7 volume percent, and so very good, moment to drink it in the moment, and the acidity is high, and so it's better than mineral water, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, so I was asked to tell a little bit about the story of the winery first, and how we come to the winery. And yeah, so it's Immich Batterieberg, one of the oldest estates at the Mosel. First documents from 911 was a present from a caroling a family to a monastery, and you see a little bit the oldest part. It's in the back here. That's the middle building out of the 11th, 12th century, on top of some stones from the end of the 9th. And yes, and winery name Immich Batterieberg. Immich was a family name of the owner family from 1425 to 1989. Then there was an in-between owner, and we took over in 2009 the winery. And yeah, in that moment it was not very big, close to 4 hectares. Now we have 13 hectares by ourselves and 5 hectares of grape contracts. And yeah, only very steep vineyards. We will see this later in a part video. And 98% Riesling, 2% Pinot Noir, and doing 5 Grand Crus, 2 entry-level wines, the Kai are here, and the Detonation next step. Then there is a wine in between, Escheburg. That is actually the name of the winery building in back, because it belongs to the Dukes of Esch in the 11th, 12th century. And then we are bottling 5 different Grand Crus, 1 sparkling and 1 Pinot Noir. So that's it. Quite small production. So Kevin, you didn't know that we have a Pinot Noir, or what was?
I didn't know that it was the Duke of Esch's for the Escheberg.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was a noble family here, and they owned. There is also a vineyard called Esche Vineyard, which is part of the Steffensberg today. Which is Esch. Esch is a tree, so that was also their sign, and yeah. And they were also owner of the estate in that time.
Gernot, what percentage of the vines are ungrafted?
Still good 70% are ungrafted, and so also we have a average age in the winery from more than 70 years. It's a very unique situation, and that was also the reason why we were interested in the winery, and because of this very special vineyard situation, and also the possibility to buy more vineyards like that. For example, we started with 1.1 hectare Ella Group, 100% ungrafted wines, and now we have 2.4, 2.6 hectare, also still ungrafted wines. So we could buy a lot of old wines in the time we were here, and there is still potential to grow in that direction, and that is that is the main part we do. So most of the people, because it's entry level, know only the Kai, but for us, the main production and also a good quantity of our production is definitely the Grand Cru vineyards, Batterieberg, Ella Group, Vineyard, Steffensberg, Zollturm, which we also have to sell as a Grand Cru because the working costs are so high, and this is really the main production of the winery with these old ungrafted wines here. And with the question of this old ungrafted stuff, the second question was, or is that this is always old genetics. So we are so it's all Sélection Marsal material, and also if we plant something new, it is again old Sélection Marsal stuff which we plant. So it's mostly around 50% from our own vineyards, and 50% Sélection Marsal stuff we get from a friend. So that it is a bit, so bring a bit new genetic inside, because that's what it is all about, that we have no sibling wines in the vineyard. So that is really every wine has its own genetic and brings, so we have a lot of different grapes there, and in my idea it brings a widespread kind of aromas, and from the quality side and from the disease side, it is also more stable, because not every plant is getting directly the same disease at the same moment.
So maybe we'll go to the video now.
Yeah, maybe starting with that, and so I can explain a bit. Yeah, so here we are in front of the winery, the old winery, main entry, and so we are in Enkirch. We are in the, you can say, heart of the Middle Mosel area. So that's the old cellar. In the winery, always the crus in the barrels, and the entry level is mostly in stainless steel.
And Gernot, the cellar is from the 9th century or 11th century?
So there are parts of it from the 9th century. The room we are seeing now, this is end of the 19th century, and so that's end of the 19th century. But it's really built in the mountain, and so no air condition needed. So very stable temperatures. So around 14 degrees still. So if you go down in this heat, it's always fantastic to be a bit cooled down. Yeah. And I think the video goes also in the older part later. Yeah, and here we are starting with the vineyards, and starting with the Batterieberg, one of the 5 crus and the name giving vineyard of the winery, and it's a strange name a bit, and this because a former owner of the winery bombed some rocks away between 1841 1845 to plant some more wines. I think you can see very well how steep it is, and that it is not easy to work on. So we are 100% handwork winery, so we have no machines to work. And here we are in the Ella Group, for example, and and so these there was never really a renewing of this vineyard. So the terraces are very old, and there was no way to develop them a little bit more easier to work on. And so that is the reason why we have all these old wines still. That is the Zollturm. It's a new vineyard we bought in the winter of 14. So the 15 Zollturm was the first vintage from our winery. But here we have also 80 years old ungrafted wines, gray slate here. A lot of quartz. Yeah, okay. That's me. Yeah, and that's a monorail. So that is a transport rail, you can say. So transports materials and grapes down, and yeah, that's a part of it. Also, the middle part, which is unplanted, belongs to us. So we have to do it. Extremely steep, 45 degrees. Yeah. So was not easy with the light today. This is from today because I wanted to show a bit the situation in the vineyard, and it's out of the Zepp Vineyard. Yeah, a lot of different herbs and yeah, very good soil situation now. That was not so easy. I have to say, when we started in 2009, we changed everything from herbicides to natural greening, and so in the beginning we had a lot of unwanted plants actually, and now we have this widespread of herbs, but you really needed 10 years to get this now quite good situation. Yeah, here you can see in the Zepp Vineyard, quite healthy grapes, very good situation there without any problems. Can you still hear me?
Yes, you're good. You're all good.
Okay, okay, fine. Cause I saw a warning sign in between. Okay, yes, and so the Zepp Vineyard, we saw now that that is very healthy in the moment, good situation. We have, I think, this other single video still left from the Zollturm, and there you can see a little bit the sunburn situation, because this happened last week when the temperature was rising a lot in one day, and it was super intense sunlight day, and so a lot of outside sitting berries, yeah, getting a lot of sunburn. And yeah, so we will see where we have to select this out. Yeah, John asking for the early harvest question, and yeah, so we will definitely have early harvest. I'm expecting for the Riesling, I'm expecting the first week of October, or maybe the last days in September to start, mainly with the entry level to keep it light and in a low alcohol way. I'm not the biggest, actually, I'm not the biggest fan of super early harvest, because I also like aroma, and I like ripe grapes. But yeah, we have to make decisions how to work on the alcohol question. And yes, but it definitely looked like a very early harvest. Yeah, so Frederic asked about how we will transport the harvest grapes. This is a lot, and has really to be carried down, and so we have some backpacks. I don't know the English name for this. Some bins for you could have up to 50 kilos of grapes inside, and really have to walk down with that. And in the bigger vineyards, you saw this monorail where I stepped over in the Zollturm, and this is this is a big help actually for transporting stuff down. So we are picking the grapes in small boxes, and we can carry the box on the monorail and drive it down. And yeah, that's helpful. And then we can decide if we put it directly in the press or do a skin contact before. And yeah, so the situation is a bit now that coming from the skin contact question, coming to the winemaking, we normally do a bit skin contact, which often means for the Kai, the entry level means 3 hours, Kai detonation, 3 hours, only to open the skins a little bit for pressing, and can go up to 24 hours for the cruise. And this is something what I reduced a little bit in the last years. So when I started to do the first wines 100% by my own, it was so, for example, with Van Volksem Winery in the beginning of the 2000s, I did much longer skin contact, also did other selections, doing fatter wines in that time, and maybe also with the idea doing wines which are more impressive in the use. And so that has definitely changed a bit. So I now try to keep the acidity more, and also want to have leaner wines with a slower development. And this is definitely something which is very much important for our wines, that you need a bit time. So it's often quite nice to try them in the beginning, but the real development, yeah, it's a big help for the wines to have time. So as I showed you, I'm drinking the 2014 Kai now, which was not showing so easy in the beginning. So it's really a nice wine now, and I'm still also drinking the 2009 entry level. So also the entry level can develop very good, and 10 years is absolutely no problem, and definitely 20-30 years for the cruise. And this is really also this is really also the history of the Mosel, and that is something I want to work with, because I really like ripe wines, developed wines which are 10, 20 years old, developed, and this is something we really want to keep on. So I see a few questions. So Matty, in a high quality, yeah. So it's yeah. So this is what I said. So this is something you can definitely expect. It's not only a question of a high quality year. It's I think every entry level you have from us since 2009, there is not one which is tired now. So from 2009 to now, there's every of the entry level you can definitely drink. Yes. So then the question from Kevin about the sulfite during the cold soak period. Yes, there is not a really cold soak period, because I'm not cooling it. So the grapes staying with a picking temperature, and this is also something which defines the question how fast I press them. If it's warmer, I will definitely press them faster as if it's colder. And we never use any sulfur in this period. So it is something we really do. So all the wines are sulfured around, I would say around 8 days before bottling. Only one time, and they're staying the whole time without any sulfur on the full lees in the barrel. So normally no racking in the cellars, wine staying on the full lees, And for my question, there is no sulfur needed in that vines because the yeast is helping with keeping them reductive enough, keeping them not. So the wines are maybe a bit oxidative, but they are not oxidized, and that keeps them very stable. And so for me, no need for sulfur in that time. And I would, yeah, and maybe 1 of 20 barrels I'm racking, because then I have the feeling that maybe the yeast is not so perfect in this year, but it's very, very seldom. So okay, yeah, then the question about detonation and Escheburg. Yeah, so detonation is a cuvée of 3 different vineyards with extremely extremely hard soiled and extremely poor soil. And the idea of the detonation is to have a very lean wine showing a lot of minerality, a lot of salt, and the selection for the vineyard for the detonation is made by this question. And the Escheburg is one step up, is a kind of a second wine behind the Grand Crus. It's 100% Grand Cru material, and so it's only material of Batterieberg, Eller Group, Vineyard, and Steffensberg. A lot of Eller Group actually, because we were growing there, so they're just our biggest vineyards. And so detonation is around minimum 40 years old wines, and it's not 100% ungrafted material. Escheburg is 80% ungrafted material for minimum 60 years old wines. Detonation is stainless steel, 100% stainless steel wine, and the Escheburg is staying 1 year in the barrel, in the wooden barrels. Also a lot of small barrels, barriques, but never new wood anyway. So we never use new wood in the winery. So it's something I'm interested in, the micro oxidation, but not in the wood taste here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so detonation is around 70-80% purchased fruit, yes. But very, very good vineyards behind. It's Drohner Hofberg, Grand Cru Vineyard. It's Kinheimer, Rosenberg, and it's the rest is from Enkirch village here. And the Escheburg is you can say it's a village vigne, which you took only out of Grand Cru vineyards. So which people in Burgundy also do sometimes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and the bottom of the Batterieberg still goes to the Kai, yeah, and because this is the bottom, so this is the first. It's only 15 to 20 meters, a little bit fatter soil in the beginning. So when the streets, there is a street, and then it goes starting a little bit softer from the steepness. So in the first meters are wireframe. And this is not ungrafted material, so it's grafted material, so it never goes to the Grand Cru. And it's also, for us, quite young wine, so it's only good 30 years old wines, which are never used in our crus when they are so young. Yeah, that's it about the Kai. So the rest of the Kai is purchased fruit, mostly also from Drohner Hofberg, again Kinheimer, Rosenberg. We have a little bit from the village of Reil, a bit from Kröv, and also from the Saar Valley, from Wiltingen and Oberemmel. We get grapes, which is very nice because in hotter years we get a little bit higher acidity from these wines.
Gernot, is this time, not maybe this year, but normally, is this a time where you're doing some bottling to make room in the cellar for the next harvest?
Yeah, this is happening actually next week. So we will start to bottle 2019. So we will start actually this year. We turn it a bit. We start with the crus, and the Kai is prepared for bottling too, but this will happening because I have more space there. This will happening maybe after the harvest, because we have a little bit 2018 left now, which is starting to open up. Very nice. And anyway, we bottled the 2018 vintage, hot vintage, and we had the feeling that the 18 needed a lot of time. The most of the 18s are only bottled 3 months now. So it's so the 19s are coming quite fast behind the 2018 screws. And for me, 18 is a great vintage, but a hot vintage is a little bit like 59, 2003 from the style, and these wines need time. So when we have a look on 2003, it is showing well now. So so in the beginning, these kind of vintages, they need a lot of time to lose a bit the baby fat, getting more structure, more focus, and this is happening now with the 2003s. And it is very, very, very interesting to look in the past, because now everyone who knows a bit about wine and vintages and old vintages will tell you that 59 is a great vintage. And but if you have a look in newspapers, in wine papers from 1961, a lot of people told you that this is a too fat vintage, and the wine was the wines were called widow makers, because people drink too much. Their wine were higher in alcohol, and so a lot of people didn't like the 59s. And like with the 2003, everyone said, "Oh, it's not so good." But as you see now, there's really, if the cork is good, you can say there is really not one bad bottle of 59. I tasted. So it's really, really, really seldom that you find not so good bottles of 59. And so that is a very good example, because I think there are two kinds of rich old vintages. One is this kind of vintage, zero botrytis, hot summer, and very ripe fruits. And this is 59, 2003, 2018. And then you have other vintages which are known as great vintage, like for example 76, which is well known like that. And but 76 is a vintage which is much more defined by botrytis. So you have in 76 you have much more botrytis. So totally other development of the 76. And 76, for example, for my taste, not by far not every wines, but a lot of wines starting now to show the first weakness. And you see that with the botrytis, that is not always so easy. And but if you don't speak about Beerenauslese, but so normal wines up to a normal Auslese. But with the non-botrytis vintages, the great non-botrytis vintages are wines, are easier to keep at the end.
And speaking of vintages, what is your feeling on the 2019s?
Yeah, this is again a vintage out of a super hot year. But it was the second year of dryness in a row. And so I think that is the main reason why the wines are looking leaner, a little bit finer in the moment, lighter. But at the end of the harvest, then we had then botrytis came. And so actually you will have from the vintage of 2019, you will have two kinds of wine. So it's not only speaking about Immich Batterieberg, it's in the whole, mainly in the whole Germany, that you will have earlier picked, lighter feeling wines with a lighter feeling than the vintage should offer, but very good, very nice fruit, very structured. Also, I think it's very interesting vintage. And then you have, out of the second part of the harvest, you have this botrytis part, but actually really with a fantastic botrytis. So people who are keen on doing noble sweet wines, they could definitely make a great amount and fantastic noble sweet wines, because the aroma of the 19 botrytis is very good. And also we have, I don't know actually in the moment what to do with it, but also we have some botrytis wines in the cellar in the moment. And yeah, so as you know, the market is crying for these, and tons of people want a lot of botrytis, want to buy a lot of botrytis wines. But I think it's very interesting, and it's also, it's no need to sell it very fast. Yeah. So Matty asked, are you part of the backrettings project? No, we are not, but we are very, all these people from the Klitze Kleiner Ring, we are very close. And in the film you saw the right part of the Zollturm, and this was a part of the Bergrettung. And we took this vineyard over, and that is a bit the idea of them, finding vineyards which which are in danger to be abandoned, and good vineyards, and so they take it over and develop it a bit, and maybe one there is a winery coming, taking it over, and then they're going over for next project. And that is a bit the Bergrettungs's idea, and we are definitely like what they are doing. Yeah.
Question from John Rank.
Again.
Speak about residual sugar in the wines. Well.
Yeah, so it is. So in our case, it is. I never stop wines in the fermentation, so they can always ferment to the end. But I also don't do a lot about when it is not coming to a bone dry wine. So there are definitely vintages which are easier in the fermentation, 14, 0 sugar. Also 15 was not a problem. In 16, mainly everything was dry, only the Ella group, which is has 11 grams sugar, fantastic, is showing fantastic now. These wines need a bit more time. Then also in 17 was not a problem. Then in 18, we definitely, out of this hot vintage dry situation, we will have a few more wines with a few gram residual sugar, which is also nice for the development in this kind of wines, because it also keeps a little bit the alcohol in shape. And this will be very hedonistic wines for the future, but maybe not the best wines for drinking. It's young. It's my opinion. Actually, we had a lot of customers here at the table trying the 18s, and they all liked it a lot. But I personally like these kinds of wine when they are a bit more developed. And yeah, so for me, these wines are wines for in 10 years, definitely. Yeah. And yes, and also when we make this quite seldom situation that we do a Auslese or something like that, also these kind of predicate wines, you can always say that's a minimum maximum the half of the sugar which is usual in the moment for high-class wineries. For example, we made a 2018 Batterieberg Auslese, which has stopped by itself with 64 gram residual sugar. And a normal whatever it is, normal Auslese from the area would have around 120 gram residual sugar. So it's a bit the style we are doing, and also keeping up with the style of the old Immich family. So they never, when you taste old wines here, you always see that also the noble sweet wines were not so sweet, and also these Auslese if an old Auslese has 50 gram residual sugar, it's super high. Often they have a lot less, and if you go back in the time, it's less and less and less and less and less. And so if you now takes wines from the 20s, 30s, so if it has a 15 gram residual sugar, it's enough, and it's a higher sugar. And
I'm gonna get a little bit personal.
mm-hmm.
Why, as you've taken over this estate, why do you personally feel such a responsibility or a sense to make wines in the tradition of the house, or feel a responsibility to carry on that tradition? I'd like you to explain that a little bit, because not everybody would have that kind of respect for the legacy that they have taken.
Yeah, because one thing is simply that I liked the wines they did in the past. I know the wines since a long time, and since the beginning of the 90s. I tasted them. Actually, the first of them I tasted together with Stuart Piggott. He made some guides and that smaller booklets in that time, and he was also living in Bernkastel, and we tried these wines together, and it was very interesting to taste this wine, because it was not a time where a lot of people did good dry wines and also off dry wines, and we always thought that these wines have a bit more power, because the simple reason for that was that they never worked with high yields, they never used a lot of fertilizer in the winery, so they never had they had always powerful wines and structured wines for the Mosel, and that was something I like. Second thing is that for me, this Mosel and wines with a lot of developed potential is something which should always come together, because for me, Mosel wines which are not able, I never tasted a Mosel wine in my life which I found good, which is something you should drink in the first 3 years. Never, and this because then it's boring stuff, deacidified or so, and it's not something I'm interested in. And most of the wines are like showing their beauty over the time, and so I definitely wanted to make wines which needed time and which also have time for the development also in the cellar, because a bit the tradition of the last 30 years a bit is this early bottling, keeping a lot of primary fruit, so bottling in March, April at the latest, and this has another keeping the wines also a lot more reductive, and this brings a special fruit style, which can be fantastic too, but it is not something I am searching for so much. And I wanted to keep these wines a little bit more in a we are not doing, as I said before, we are not doing really oxidative wines, but we definitely give them a little bit more oxygen, let them stabilize in the barrel, and trying to have another stabilization on the bottle also, which keeps us in the situation that we can work with less. Definitely less sulfur as it is usual, or also as you needed it if you want to keep a lot of primary fruit. Yeah, so that is definitely another thing. And then when we arrived here, we had directly a lot of super interesting examples in front, because we have this old cellar down to 1921 with nearly every vintage, and so again, I could taste a lot of the old stuff, and I see that is really worth to follow a bit. And as I said, the Immich family always did a lot of dry wines too. So actually, the old lady is still living, 96 now, and she never liked sweet wines so much. So she told me that she never opened the sweet wines for herself, which was definitely in the Mosel, in the sweet phase of the Mosel, and to the 60s, up to the mid of the 80s. It was definitely not so easy, because in that time, 95% of the wines were sweeter style here.
That was a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody has any other questions, and I think our time's up. And we're going to say we can't wait to see you. We can't wait to come to the Moselle again.
Yeah, again,
and,
please.
For you to come to New York, and we'll see when that all happens.
Yeah.
So. But thank you so much, Ken.
Yeah, great. And hope for the 3rd of November that people.
Oh yeah, let's hope.
Do a great decision. So, yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. I hope everyone has wine. Yeah.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.